I came back to the past, and so did Aiden Mitchell. In my last life, he was the one who personally brought me home from the orphanage. I was his foster sister, then his wife. We grew old together, our love a deep and steady flame. This time, as the Mitchells smiled and waved for me to come home with them, just like before, a teenage Aiden suddenly stepped forward, blocking their view of me. "Dad, Mom, don't pick her. I want the girl next to her to be my sister." He grabbed the hand of the girl standing beside me, the Hawthorne's foster daughter, the one who, in our past life, had died of illness before she even turned 10. When he turned back to look at me, his eyes were as cold and sharp as winter ice. "You stole Chloe's place. You're the reason she died so young. In this life, it's your turn to suffer what she went through." In that instant, I understood everything. This time, he wanted to be the hero. He wanted to save his fragile little princess. "Would you be willing to come with me?" Mrs. Hawthorne stood before me, her voice a soft murmur. I looked past her, at the man I had spent decades with, now holding another girl's hand, walking away without a single glance back. Fine by me. This time around, I wanted to try a different path anyway. As I stepped out of the orphanage gates, the Mitchell family was still there, waiting. The moment Aiden saw me, his face tightened. He fumbled to push the girl into the back seat of their car, and before the door was even fully shut, he was yelling at me. "Alara Mitchell, you can get on your knees and cry all you want, but I will never accept you as my sister. There's no place for you in the Mitchell family. A thief like you belongs in that house of horrors with the Hawthorns." He punctuated his words with a harsh shove that sent me stumbling. The car door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I lost my footing, swaying for a moment before catching my balance. But by then, their cars had already roared off into the distance. The exhaust fumes churned up a cloud of grit and dust that swirled into my face, stinging my eyes until I couldn't keep them open. Just then, a sleek, jet-black Maybach glided to a silent stop in front of me. The tinted window lowered, revealing Mrs. Hawthorne's face, a mask of sculpted ice. "You want to go to the Mitchells?" I shook my head, my voice barely a whisper. "The Hawthorns are just fine." She paused, her gaze flicking over me. "What's your name?" "Alara," I said softly. "Not anymore," she stated, her words clipped and final. "You are Alara Hawthorne." She didn't need to say more. I understood. I quickly opened the car door, slid inside, and said with perfect composure, "Yes, Mother." A flicker of something, surprise perhaps, crossed Mrs. Hawthorne's brow, but she said nothing, simply leaning back against the leather seat and closing her eyes. I took the cue and remained silent. The car purred through a lavish, gated community before stopping at the Hawthorne estate. I followed her inside, watching as she set down her purse. She glanced up the grand staircase, speaking as if to the air, or perhaps introducing someone I couldn't see. "Charlotte, this is your new sister, Alara Hawthorne." I froze, my gaze instinctively shooting upward. Leaning against the railing of the second-floor gallery was a boy. He was even more handsome than Aiden, his features so clean and defined they seemed almost unreal, yet imbued with a chilling remoteness. I had no idea how long he'd been standing there, watching in complete silence. My stomach dropped. So this was Charlotte Hawthorne? He was nothing like I remembered. In my past life, he'd been sent abroad shortly after I was taken in by the Mitchells. I didn't see him again for many years. By then, he was the head of the Hawthorne Empire, his face a roadmap of scars, his presence terrifying. He was ruthless in business and frightening in appearance. Behind his back, the elite circles called him the Hawthorne Reaper. I forced a smile and called out softly, "Hello, brother." But it was as if he hadn't heard me. He remained motionless, his eyes as cold and empty as still water. "Don't mind him," Mrs. Hawthorne said flatly. "He's always been like that. Prefers his own company." With that, she summoned a housekeeper and instructed her to show me to my room, then left without another word. I bowed my head, about to follow the housekeeper, but some strange impulse made me look back one last time. My eyes crashed into the boys. My days were scheduled down to the minute, so packed that even breathing felt like a luxury. Mrs. Hawthorne may have been absent, but her orders were not. My life became a whirlwind of lessons in deportment and posture, followed by dance, equestrianism, and every other aristocratic discipline she could think of. It was supposed to be summer break, a time for rest, but this was more exhausting than school had ever been. Even Mrs. Gable, the head housekeeper, looked at the constellation of bruises on my knees with a soft, pitying gaze. "Miss Alara, are you sure you don't want to ask Mrs. Hawthorne for a day off?" I looked down, pulling on my riding boots, and gently shook my head. "There's no need." On my first day, Mrs. Hawthorne had made her expectations crystal clear. No child of the Hawthorne family is allowed to be lazy. Even if you aren't my blood, you will not bring shame to this name. Not like that girl at the Mitchells playing around all day. Mrs. Gable sighed, handing me my satchel. "It's true. I heard them making a racket this morning. The whole family booked tickets to fly abroad for the summer." She was trying to stick up for me, in her own way. She thought a girl my age shouldn't be cooped up, drilled with these endless, punishing lessons. I stood and took the bag with a smile. "It's not a hardship, Mrs. Gable. I want to learn these things. Outsiders might see the Hawthorne household as a cold, rigid prison, but I knew it was an opportunity. The Hawthornes were old money, with a foundation and network of connections so deep that new money families like the Mitchells couldn't hope to touch it, even after decades of trying. Here, I could learn. I could climb higher, even if everyone in this house treated me with cold indifference, even if Mrs. Hawthorne was relentlessly strict, and Charlotte wouldn't give me the time of day. Lost in thought, I felt something soft and white brush against my leg. A moment later, a frantic, girlish voice called out, "Oh, Snowy, wrong person, come back. Aiden, help me catch her." I bent down and scooped the small kitten into my arms, straightening up just as a boy walked toward me. His lips were curved into a smile, his eyes filled with adoration. I recognized him instantly. It was Aiden Mitchell. The second Aiden saw me, the smile vanished from his face, replaced by a look of pure disgust. "What are you still doing here? Can't you take a hint?" he snapped, his voice dripping with scorn. "Don't think for a second that ambushing me here will change my mind." "Dream on, Alara?" Chloe's voice, a mixture of surprise and delight, cut through the tension. She hurried over, her fluffy skirt bouncing, her eyes shining. "Wow, I can't believe it! It's so great to see you again after the orphanage. What a coincidence." She took the kitten from my arms. Then her eyes fell on the black sedan parked behind me. She asked, full of curiosity, "Is that car here to pick you up?" Her gaze swept over the vehicle, and in an instant, her expression shifted, her face paling. "Oh my God! Don't tell me you were actually adopted by the Hawthornes next door?" I was about to answer when my eyes caught something familiar, a key-shaped pendant hanging around her neck. The sight sent a jolt through my heart. Chloe noticed my gaze and instinctively clutched the pendant, hiding it in her fist. I feigned ignorance, simply nodding. "Yes, I'm living with the Hawthornes now." "The Hawthornes are scary, aren't they?" She leaned in, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "I heard their son has issues, that he doesn't talk. Is it true?" She gestured secretly toward the Hawthorne estate, her face a mask of gossipy intrigue, firing off questions. My brow furrowed, and I opened my mouth to correct her, but she was already chattering on. "I have to go," I said, trying to step away. Aiden cut in, his voice cold. "Chloe, why are you wasting your time with someone like her?" "Let's go." Chloe chirped in agreement, then stuck her tongue out at me playfully. "Don't mind him. My brother is usually super sweet. He's probably just in a bad mood today." "Aiden, wait for me," she called, lifting her skirt to chase after him. I stood there for a moment before turning to leave as well. The wind carried their conversation back to me. A humorless smile touched my lips, but I said nothing. Before I knew it, the first day of school had arrived. My new mother had already enrolled me in the same international academy Charlotte attended, the same one Aiden and I had gone to in our previous life. On the first day, I got into the car early. When Charlotte pulled the door open, I greeted him with a cheerful smile. "Morning, brother," Mom said. "We'll be going to and from school together from now on." Charlotte's hand froze midair. Then, without a word, he sat down in the seat for... This went on for nearly 2 months. I noticed that while Charlotte never responded to me, acting as if I were invisible, something had shifted. Sometimes when I was running late for breakfast and rushed out into the courtyard, I'd find him waiting by the car, his backpack already slung over his shoulder. Suppressing my surprise, I'd just smile and say, "You're a good guy, you know that, brother." He would just give me his usual flat glance, turn, and get into the car without a word. But this time, when he got in, he led with his right foot. A small smile tugged at my lips. Interesting. Things really were changing. One afternoon, I waited by the main school building long after the final bell, but Charlotte was nowhere to be found. He wasn't answering his phone. As I paced anxiously, a sudden, sharp jolt of memory hit me. I remembered. In my past life, around this time, something major had happened right outside the school gates. I had been cramming for exams, desperate to catch up with the curriculum, so I only heard snippets of gossip, whispers about someone from the Hawthorne family causing a scene, talk of their kid getting into serious trouble. Years later, I overheard someone mention that the future head of the Hawthorne empire, Charlotte, had his face deliberately slashed during high school. Could it be today? There was no time to think. I immediately texted our driver. "If you don't see me at the front gate, don't wait. Come find me."